on Friday and fought local armed groups. OK, let's go back to the conflict in Ukraine. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa says a group of African countries will send a peace mission to Ukraine and Russia as soon as possible. He said the countries include Senegal, Uganda and Egypt, as well as South Africa. Well, Ovigwe Eguegu is a geopolitics and security analyst. He's joining us from Ankara. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. How much are these African nations in a position to act as mediators for peace, given the rather turbulent history that many of them have seen?
Yes, of course. You know, African countries have been very concerned about the war in Ukraine. Last year, we did see President Macky Sall of Senegal, who was then the AU chairman, and Moussa Faki Mahamat, who is the chair of the EU Commission, visit President Putin to discuss the situation with regards to Ukraine. And also, of course, President Zelenskyy had a video call with the AU as well. So since the war broke out, African countries have been very concerned. Even though the continent has been split, the AU in particular has been very active in trying to push for a political solution. So countries like South Africa, for instance, their position right from the get-go has always been that the resolutions that we've seen at the UNG have not reflected enough commitment to a dialogue and a peace process. That is why they've abstained from all of the UNG resolutions. It's about 6 of them that we've had so far. So I think this new initiative may also be, from South Africa's part, may also be motivated by recent reports that South Africa supplied weapons to Russia. You know, that is a very serious issue. It will then move South Africa from its official position of active non-alignment to being obviously aligned with Russia. So this would serve as a very good way to sort of change the narrative, change the conversation that is engulfing South Africa at the moment in regards to Russia and the Ukraine war.
Many of the countries, of course, on the African continent have been badly hit by the flow of grain supplies that have been coming not only from Ukraine but also from Russia as well, including also fertilizer supplies from Russia, restrictions on those too. How much of this is about trying to find a peaceful solution and how much of it is about protecting African nations' interests?
Well, I think the war has been devastating for countries all over the world, African countries included. We know, of course, the situation in Somalia was very critical at a point. And when we got grain supply to Somalia, it was such a relief for Somalia and all the other countries in the Horn of Africa that have had issues with regards to food security. However, I think it's also been blown out of proportion in the sense that not many countries are really dependent on Russia and Ukraine's supplies, but the cutoff of Russia and Ukraine's supplies increased global prices, and it is the price that has really been the issue. So with the African continent, yes, there's vulnerability to the supply shortages from Ukraine through the Black Sea and from Russia, and that, of course, is one of the motivation why African countries want the war to end. However, I think the broader fear is that we are at the cusp, or even not in the middle of great power competition that is leading in very closely to war. And all that war will be very devastating for African countries because their own resilience, it's not as strong as other countries in other parts of the world. So I think if we consider these factors, we can see why African countries want to be very much actively engaged in the political process.
Ovigwe Eguegu, we appreciate it. So thank you very much indeed for your time. Plenty more ahead on the news hour, including...